Well, while we've been on air, police in California have confirmed that the comedy actor Robin Williams died of asphyxia after apparently hanging himself. He had recently sought treatment for depression.
Mr. Williams' personal assistant became concerned at approximately 11:45 a.m. when he failed to respond to knocks on his bedroom door. At that time, the personal assistant was able to gain access to Mr. Williams' bedroom and entered the bedroom to find Mr. Williams clothed in a seated position, unresponsive.
Well, joining me now from Edinburgh is the actor Scott Capurro, who starred with Robin Williams in the film Mrs Doubtfire. Thanks for coming on the programme. He gave you your first break, didn't he?
He did. He gave me the role of Anne Shack in Mrs Doubtfire. I had auditioned and then heard not very much, and then saw him at a comedy club. And the club owner encouraged me to ask Robin about the role, and Robin said, well, which role was it? And I told him, and he said, well, that shouldn't be a problem. And in a few days, I got the call that I'd got the role. And then I showed up on a set with two comedic icons, Robin and Harvey Fierstein, and I was slightly intimidated, but they were incredibly gracious, and Robin was particularly generous with me. And
was he inspiring?
I have very warm memories of that week.
Was he inspiring as an actor, or was he so wrapped up in his own world and imagination that you kind of just were standing there watching him in awe?
Well, it's hard to not be inspired by someone with such an articulate way of expressing himself and such a great imagination, but he was wonderful on the set. I mean, very playful, like a schoolyard in a good way. And he didn't know some things like the lyrics to a couple of songs that Harvey and I, of course, knew and taught him. And then I spent a lot of the week tugging on his head and playing with his hair. I was the designer that helped turn him into a woman.
Ah.
Yeah, well, we had to tease his hair and tease his wig and make him look more as female as we possibly could. Very fun.
And, you know, while he was performing and he was on this sort of extraordinary form, you know, feeding on his sort of imaginative adrenaline, did you get the impression that this was a man who was constantly battling with his demons, not very successfully?
No, of course not. I mean, I only knew him professionally, a bit personally, but I'd seen him in a comedy club recently, and he seemed as inspired and exuberant as ever. And actually, his stand-up was quite intimate. The room wasn't large, and it felt as though he was speaking directly to you. There wasn't anything that wasn't joyous about him on stage, and I think in film as well, he brought a lot of joy to a lot of people. And I was with him on the street a few times. We went for ice cream while filming Mrs Doubtfire, and I thought, shouldn't he have a posse with him or some sort of security? But he had nothing, and even when children heard his voice, I think because of Aladdin, they just ran at him. And he greeted them with complete openness and kindness. And there was He's a lovely man.
And there was this amazing thirst on his part to perform, to constantly entertain, to make people laugh. How do you explain that?
Well, I think a lot of performers feel a constant need to entertain. I'm at the Edinburgh Fringe right now, surrounded by thousands of them. And I think also for him, it was a way of perhaps, I don't know, becoming closer with the people around him. And whilst off stage in the green room around other comics, he was completely fresh and open about what he knew and what he was willing to share. I was really in admiration of him for a very long time. I still am.
Okay.
I think he's a bit of a hero and definitely an inspiration to people my age and younger who are standing up.
We're going to have to leave it there, I'm afraid. Thank you very much, Scott Capurro, for joining us.